Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Ashley, it's been a couple big weeks for the podcast, hasn't it?
Big weeks.
Big weeks.
A lot of new followers.
A lot of new followers.
subscribers.
And we had a couple guests on. And so it feels like it's been forever since we've been in the studio talking to each other.
Yeah.
It's been a couple weeks, real time. So you guys have seen the last couple episodes. We had a couple guests on, and those guests we recorded in the same weekend. So there's been a lot of editing. There's been a lot of work on the show, but we haven't worked together much on the show in the last couple of weeks. So here we are.
Yeah, I feel like we're starting over again.
Actually, this is let's go ahead and tell everybody this is the third time that we've started recording this morning. We had a couple snafus, but we're working them out. But anyway, I wanted to talk about how this is no longer the Hobbit hut. We moved the studio around a little bit in the garage here. Our oldest son has flown the coop. He no longer lives here, so it kind of sucks for me. It's been a weird thing to have happen to you, I guess, when your kids get older and fly the coop.
Yeah.
We've got 4 kids total. So you came into this relationship with no kids, and I had 2 kids already. And I had 2 kids from previous relationships. Now, so my oldest daughter, she's 21. She just turned 21, and she is married and out of the house. She's been out of the house for like 3 years. She got married right out of high school and joined the workforce, and she'd been on her own. Our son-in-law is kind of cool, but they've been on their own for about 3 years now, and
They're about to have a baby in 4 weeks.
yeah, we're going to be grandparents, and that's exciting. And they're talking about also, I haven't ever told you this, they're talking about buying a home.
Oh,
So
good.
that's awesome. Congratulations, guys. I hope it works out. But our oldest son is 20. He just turned 20. And their birthdays, our oldest kids' birthdays are actually separated by like 6 days.
Yeah.
So it's kind of great. But anyway, our oldest son just turned 20, and he just moved out. He just flew the coop, and I'm struggling with it, to be honest. I am.
Yeah.
And he called me yesterday and got kind of emotional on the phone, and now I'm kind of getting emotional. But
Which I think it's kind of funny because even, over like the past year or two, well, really since Caleb's been 18, he's always like stayed at a friend's or
Right.
been out with the girlfriends.
he's been
and,
doing his own thing for a couple of years now.
and like, I'm the one that's always been like, is Caleb coming home tonight? Like, where's Caleb? Like, when's he going to be home? And you're like, I'm not worried about it. And like, now that he's not here all the time, seeing
It's
you.
like I'm wondering what he's doing and
Yeah.
how
and
he's
so
doing.
I'm like, okay, here I was before, like, him living here, and like, okay, is Caleb coming home tonight? Like, when's he going to be home?
Right. Yeah. I'm
You know?
not necessarily worried about
Yeah.
if he's eating or not when
Yeah.
he's here, but like I've worried, his truck broke down.
Yeah.
And he's had to get rides back and forth to work. I gotta wipe my eyes. I'm crying. So he's been needing a ride back and forth to work, and it's kind of worked out for him. He didn't have to go the first day, and the second day, I gave him a ride, and he was able to find a ride home. And I think I have to go pick him up today.
You got time.
Yeah, a lot of time, actually. We get up really early in the morning to do this, so our rocket can sleep while we podcast. But anyway, I wanted to talk about, parents in general talk about parenting a lot, but they don't talk about when their kids move out. And we've talked about parenting quite a bit on the show last couple months, and I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I deal with the parenting aspect 24/7. I don't get to leave the house and go to work. I mean, we do have a gig at night that we go do, but that takes us away from home, an hour and a half, 2 hours every night. And it's not much. And during that time I take that time to listen to podcasts and stuff. But, it's a really strange feeling when your kids move out of the house. My daughter, she's actually never lived with me. So I didn't actually meet my daughter until she was 5. And there's a whole big, long story behind that. We'll get into that, but I want to have my daughter on the show to talk about that with me. And anything that we discuss here about that, I kind of want her to be here, and I don't want to tell her business to the world without her. So at least not without her permission. So, hey, Ashlyn, when you watch this, I'd like to have you on the podcast. And so anyway, we didn't officially meet until she was 5. I knew about her kinda, but her mom kind of, made things a little difficult for us. And she's, like you said, she's getting ready to have a baby, her and our son-in-law at the end of this month. And we are really excited to be grandparents. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, Ashlyn never lived with us. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of lost on what to do, or how to behave when the kid moves out, And like I said, this is no longer the Hobbit hut. The first, he wasn't even gone 24 hours yet before I was working out here.
Yeah.
And as soon as he
like,
got
I
off,
didn't even really know, like, he had even moved all his stuff out. Like,
yeah, and you want to get into that, because the reason why you didn't know is because he kind of just came and took stuff and left. He didn't do any cleaning.
And, the thing is I kind of felt how my parents felt when I moved out the first time, because, like, while they weren't there, I kind of loaded up my car. I think they eventually knew it was going to happen, but, like, I didn't think about their feelings in that situation. I was just like, oh, this is what I'm doing.
I remember when we were dating, and you had, we were having, like, an overnight visit, if you will. So it was really late at night, and you're like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to drive home, but, mom and grandma, they might worry about where I am, and you were 20 at that time. So you were the same age as Caleb is now when we first met. And that's kind of funny in a way, but you were worried about how your mom and your grandma would feel with you being out all night. Caleb doesn't care.
Yeah, no, yeah. But yeah, so, like, when I came home from work, and I'm like, wait a minute. Like, well, no, like, because I came home from our night gig.
Yeah. And he was moving his stuff.
Wait a minute. All his stuff was gone.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, that's right. Because that night we had taken 2 different cars to the.
Yeah.
Didn't we? Yeah. Uh-huh. So we had taken 2 different cars. So I got here before you.
Yeah.
And
so I'm like, wait, he really
he was
moved
gone.
out?
Yeah. So.
Like, is this real?
Yeah, and we called this little area out here our Hobbit hut, because our oldest son
wearing
is
Caleb's shirt today.
Hey, Hogwarts.
Speaking of hobbits, or that's a different
yeah,
movie.
that's a
Lord of the
completely
Rings.
different franchise there. But anyway, so
maybe I was thinking of Dobby. Is it Dobby?
Dobby the house elf was
Yeah.
was Harry Potter.
He had big feet though.
Large feet.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the day he moved out, I was kind of planning and what I was going to do out here, because you talk about when dad's on TV, when their kids move out of the house, if one of the first things they do is turn their room into a weight room or a exercise room or something like that. That's not me. I'm not going to fill the garage full of exercise equipment that I'll never use. But I do want a rowing machine. I'll put a rowing machine out here.
Yeah.
But nobody ever talks about how to act, how to behave, or how to feel when your kid moves out of the house. I'm at a loss now, because even though Caleb was never here when he did live here, now all of his stuff is gone, and it's kind of, I don't have any of his crap that I'm tripping over. I don't have his dirty clothes laying out here on the floor or anything like that. It's kind of a weird feeling, you know? And he, like I said, he called me last night. He was kind of getting emotional on the phone, you know, talking about how he had saw a TV show or something funny that reminded him of me. And then the subject got turned around on death for some reason. Like he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do when you die. And I'm like, you know, that's not going to happen for a long time, buddy.
Like, oh my gosh, you went there, didn't you?
And I was like, to be quite honest with you, I'm not looking forward to it myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my.
But it's kind of been strange, you know. I did the first day or two that he was gone. I did come out here to the garage and swept up the floor, kind of got everything out of the way, and so we've now kind of made the entire garage our studio. And like our set is right in the middle of the garage, and the lighting looks better in here, you know, and it's not so cramped, and it actually feels like an office or a studio because we have closed off the part where there's no light in the garage door.
Yeah. Well, and especially like when you walk behind the false wall.
Yeah.
You're like, you feel like you're on like a set of some sort.
It's kind of neat, isn't it? Yeah. And I do need to get some lights back there because it's really dark.
Yeah, you can't see.
And you can't see anything. Like, unless you...
Spiders. There's probably spiders back on that side now because we done brought the spiders from that room into this room.
Hey, that's okay though, because it's clean now.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like my garage now. And used to be, I used to come out here and hang out to get away from you guys.
Yeah.
But then it was brought to my attention that I was doing that. Mm-hmm. And so I quit doing that. And what I do now is I go outside and hang out by myself out there.
And freeze.
Right. Oh my goodness, the weather. It's been so crazy the last couple of weeks. But
that's why we're all sick. Or
yeah.
have been sick.
Well, it feels like that's why I'm sick anyway. But no, I wanted to talk about that because I'm feeling, that's how I'm feeling. You know, I'm feeling lost without Caleb living here. And it's kind of a strange feeling because I couldn't wait for him to get the hell out.
Yeah.
You know, and then now that he's out, I'm like, come back.
Well, and I know like the couple days leading up to him talking about moving out, he was very nervous and he kept telling me like, Ashley, I'm really nervous about moving out. And I said, why?
Yeah,
And he said, because I don't want to fail and I don't want to have to come back. And I said, well, Caleb, I moved in and out of my mom's house 3 times.
Oh, yeah.
Before I haven't been back.
Well, you know, my mom died in 2015. And when she passed away, that was kind of a wake-up call for me. It kind of forced me to grow up. And when my mom passed away in 2015, I was almost 30. And I was still getting gas money from my mom. So, you know, it wasn't all the time. It wasn't like, you know, I needed money, you know, or I was broke or homeless or anything like that. It's just every now and then, hey, Mom, can I get 20 for gas? You know, so I was in my late 20s when that happened. And I felt like all of a sudden I needed to grow up. And I should have done all that already. I should have grown up, but I needed my mom, you know, and that's what Caleb was talking about last night. He's like, I don't know what I'm going to do when that does happen. And I'm like, hey, me either.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't know how to, it made me feel good, you know, that he thinks of me like that, but it didn't make me feel good that he's dreading that.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I don't think like kids really think about like that their parents do think about like, okay, like when I die,
right,
like, are my kids going to be okay?
Right.
Like, I mean, like I think about that because I think about Rocket. Like, what if we were in a car crash tomorrow and we both
right.
died?
And
who's
that's
taking care of Rocket, you know?
I've kind of
I mean, like, not that I don't think of, like, who's taking care of Sully, too, but I know, like, Rocket has special needs and needs a
yes.
special type of person to take care of him. And so I do think about those things, which maybe before Rocket, I wouldn't have thought about those things.
I thought about them, but it wasn't like one of those things that I really had to plan for. You know, death happens. Everybody dies. And that's kind of how I've looked at it my whole life is everybody dies, you know. And it wasn't really till my mom died that I kind of had my midlife crisis early. I had my midlife crisis when my mom died. And so it was it was strange to deal with that and a loss at the same time. And I still think about it sometimes when I'm laying in bed, you know, I still get that feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, you know, when I think about death and the ultimate, you know, when we shuffle off this mortal coil, you know, what's going to happen? I do think about that sometimes, but it's not one of those things I regularly think about because I'm planning now. I'm kind of planning on what I'm going to do now. You know, I'm not going to leave. I may not leave the kids a giant estate, but I don't want to leave them a bill either. So that's my whole goal is to die and not leave my kids a bill, you know, and I want to make sure everybody's taken care of. Absolutely. But, you know, one of those things that I didn't know Caleb thought about that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was very kind of surprised and taken aback that he was talking about that. I don't know what I'm going to do. And well, you know, it happens, you know, everybody dies. Yeah. So I didn't know how to I didn't know what to say to him. But at the same time, I was like, well, that makes me feel really good that he thinks about me like that, you know, because I worry all the time because I had to discipline these boys with a heavy hand. I had to discipline that one with an especially heavy hand. And I was worried.
The fact that he still likes you.
Yes, I always worried that he wasn't going to like me. But at the end of the day, I ultimately had a job to do, and that's being a dad. And if he needed a heavy hand, he needed a heavy hand. And now that he's older, you know, he still kind of looks at us for approval. And I'm like, you're on your own now. You know, I tried to teach you everything I could before you left the house or before you grew up.
I mean, and I do try telling him, like, Caleb, that's stupid. Like, why would you, like, the switch and shift things, like, Caleb, you just started. Like,
right.
Why would you ask to do that?
I would never, but at the same time, you know, this workforce is completely different than what it was when we were starting.
Because his girlfriend said she did the same thing, and I'm like,
as a hiring manager, you know, that's kind of how you feel. I did feel the same way, but it wasn't.
It's not just the onesies and twosies that are pains in the asses. It's all of you, of you in that age range. I gotta switch it up.
Switch your coffees. What do you got going on there?
It's just hot and cold.
Oh, okay. But anyway, we got the garage cleaned up and the set turned around, and Caleb's not been here since he moved out, has he? He did come one time. He came and babysat one time. Yeah. But it's kind of empty out here. Yeah. It's nice. And you go into the boys' bedroom, our oldest son and our middle son shared a room. And you go in there and it's just a disaster. He left it a disaster. And
you're not getting your deposit back. Just gonna tell you that.
Oh man, that's a great joke.
Yeah.
I wish he gave us the deposit.
Like, and I wasn't even thinking about the closet, you know, because the boys have a huge closet. And when I opened it up I think I was like looking for Sully's dress shirt or something. I opened it up and I was like, it's like he just picked his stuff up and whatever fell.
You know, he asked if he could have his hangers.
Yeah.
And is that one of those things that you ever thought about?
No.
Like I didn't think to ask my mom if I can have my hangers.
No.
I just took them. When I moved out, my mom wasn't home. So, but when I moved out, it was one of those, I was 17 when I moved out the first time. And my mom she didn't really care, I guess, but she just didn't want me to take my shit with me. She's like, no, you're not taking all this stuff because you'll lose it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I won't lose it. She was right. I would have lost it. So
Yeah, well, I was looking in there because, like, there were some things, like, he didn't take. And I'm glad he didn't take those things, like his quilt, that
oh
your
yeah.
aunt made. He left that in there. And
You know, my mom made him a quilt too. I don't know if he's got that with him or
yeah,
not.
I'm thinking he might have took that one because I didn't see that in there. But it might be in one of his totes or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. When I moved out, I didn't take hardly anything with me. I took a few things, and those few things that I did take with me, I did lose. So I'm glad she kept most of my stuff. But I don't really have anything from my childhood anymore. It's all, when I come across a box that I haven't seen for like 5 years, I just throw it away. I look through it and I throw it away because if you haven't seen it for 5 years, you don't need it. We don't, our house is too small to be pack rats.
Yeah.
So, we do have a lot of crap, but it's all stuff that we use. Or, like there's some stuff over there on that shelf I could probably get rid of. But, for the most part, the things that we store are holiday decorations. We've got Christmas, Halloween decorations. We've got, yard tools, stuff like that. But we don't really have any boxes of crap, and that's by design. Our house is pretty small, and every couple of years we do a big purge, and it's about time to do that big purge again because I'm running out of places to hide things. Your Valentine's Day gift came 2 weeks early because I was like, I don't know where I'm going to hide all this. So I gave your Valentine's Day gift early, and you gave me my Valentine's Day gift late. It was in Kansas City, and you had planned it out that you were going to get this thing, but you didn't want to go down and get it yourself. You wanted to surprise me, and so you had somebody go to Kansas City and pick this up for you. And I was pleasantly surprised at what it was. We had a few discussions because I was like, where's my Valentine's Day gift? And you're like, it's coming.
Yeah.
And then when I got here, I was like, oh, now I feel bad for being an asshole. But
But it's cool. It's an alien, and it's a Kansas
hell
City
yeah,
alien. And
it's really cool. It's not going to stay there, guys. I really wish it could stay there, but I hung the TV too low. So,
but you know what? I saw that the place that came from now has Kansas City Chiefs lighthouses
oh my
for your
goodness.
yard, and they're like this tall.
So the lighthouse issue, like we were talking about my mom collected lighthouses, and she loved lighthouses. And that started, I was in high school by the time that started. And the thing was, she went up to Seattle to visit my step-grandma. My stepdad's, at the time, my stepdad's mom. She went to Seattle to visit her, and one of the gifts that my step-grandmother gave her was a couple collectible lighthouses. And ever since then, my mom was in love with the lighthouses. So when she passed away, like thousands of lighthouses all over the house. And she would have loved to have a Kansas City Chiefs themed lighthouse. That would have just made her day. So yeah, I absolutely want one of those.
Yeah.
I want to get a tattoo of a lighthouse too, but
Yeah.
anywho, we were talking about, Caleb and kids moving out and how nobody really prepared me for this. Mm-hmm. Nobody prepared me how this was going to feel, and
I think that's just one of those things you don't think about until
it happens, and then you have to deal with it, and then you don't have anybody to talk to about it. You know?
I mean, like, I do think about Sully moving out because I'm like, is he going to be able to be a productive member of society?
Yeah, but when you think about it,
He
when
worries me.
Caleb was, when Caleb was 14, he wasn't, the brightest crayon in the box either. So I don't worry quite a whole lot about Sully. And the main reason why is because I think he'll be here longer than,
Oh, yeah.
Caleb. I think he'll be here until he's mid-20s probably.
Yeah, I think Sully will have no desire to move out of the house.
Which is kind of weird.
Because he'll be like, hey, like, mom and dad's still doing my laundry, cooking me breakfast, lunch, dinner.
I don't have to do anything. I don't have to pay a maid.
I can take out the trash for the rest of my life.
And that's really all I require. Just, hey, you're going to be here. You're going to live here. You got to do some chores to kind of help out. And I didn't pay Caleb, I didn't, but he didn't really do anything either. And I complained about that sometimes, how none of the kids ever helped me with chores. Nobody ever helps you with dishes. Mm-hmm. It kind of sucks. And that's one of the things that we're going to have to work on with our middle son, because he's going to have to learn how to do chores.
Well, that's what I was telling him the other day, because he's like, well, Mom, I did put the dishes away. I said, because I asked you to.
Right.
So if I hadn't asked you, like, you wouldn't have just volunteered.
And the big reason why we have to teach them those things is so when they leave the nest, they do it on their own. They do it themselves. And I explained that to Caleb for years. Caleb moved in when he was like 13. So he's been here 7-ish years. And before that, he lived with his mom. And we knew he was a mess. But he didn't live here to see it every day. And when he came to live here, I'm like, listen, boy, your bedroom is not going to look how it did at your mother's. And your bedroom at your mother's, now that you don't live there, is not going to look that way either. You have requirements here. Your requirements are to keep your room clean. Those are the rules. You got to keep your own space clean. And he did for the most part while he was in high school anyway. And then when he graduated, that went all, he quit cleaning his room and started leaving crap all over the place. And I'd complain about it to myself. And, but he knows how to do those things. And that's why you kind of got to teach them when they're younger, like as Sully's getting older, we're teaching him how to cook. We're teaching him how to do things on his own. And that's going to be very important when he moves out on his own. And Caleb's dealing with things really well. He's already had a couple curveballs thrown at him since he's been out of the house. And it's only been a week, and he's dealt with those curveballs really well, like with the truck breaking down. His first reaction was to call me, and he kind of diagnosed the issue. He knows what the issue is. It's either one of two things, and he's going to just eliminate the process of elimination and do them both.
Yeah.
And what really shocked me is that he's not in a big hurry to get things done to where he's tearing up the truck, driving it broken, which people have to do sometimes. My car actually has a oil leak, and I don't plan on fixing it. So
it might cost you more than what the car's worth.
I don't think it will, honestly, but I think it's going to cost like $500, and I don't have it. So, it was a free car. So, it is what it is. But Caleb's actually, doing really well, taking care of himself. He called me to ask me for, to let me know what was going on. And just out of dad habit, this is what you do. This is how you take care of this. He did it all on his own. He's got a guy a family member coming to help him fix the truck. And like, I told him, I was like, you could do that stuff yourself. And I told him what he needed, and I could show him how to do it. But I think the reason why he doesn't want me to help, I think, this may not be the reason, but I think the reason why he doesn't want me to help him is because he knows I'll look at it and just point at how to do it himself and not do it for him. I think he just wants somebody to do it for him.
Yeah.
So, well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. I was his age once too. I didn't really know what I was doing when I was working on my own vehicles, but that's how you learn.
Well, I had a dad that, was a jack of all trades. And could fix
Your
all my
dad's actually
vehicles.
fixed my vehicles. So, since we've been together for a long time. We've been together since you were Caleb's age and I was Ashlyn's age.
Yeah.
We've been together for almost 20 years. And so we kind of grew up together. Like how to do a lot of things now that you didn't know when you were that age because you just had to deal with those things. Caleb didn't even know he had roadside assistance. So I was like, when he's talking about limping his truck home, I'm like, you could have just called a tow truck, son. He's like, really? And I was like, yeah, you have roadside assistance. You pay extra for a tow truck. And he's like, oh, okay, now I know. So,
well, and he should know that because with your car, when it broke down that one.
When my car broke down that one time, he had it, and I had to call roadside at that time.
Remember, because it was going to take him forever.
And I called him, and I was like, no, I got a kid sitting out on the highway. Go get him now.
And they didn't know where it was or something.
Yeah, and the whole service had changed from when COVID happened, when the pandemic happened, everything shut down and it forced insurance companies to work in a different way. And our insurance company it doesn't have a physical address around here. I mean, the closest building, physical building of our insurance company is in Lawrence, Kansas, which is 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
So, and it's a little place out of Texas. So
I was gonna say, yeah, because I seen it in Texas when I drove Mom down there. So
the headquarter building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we've had to deal with those issues in the past, but not this bad. When we call roadside assistance, they text us and find out where you are, and I'm like, can't you just turn on a little toggle switch and GPS me, or
yeah.
I'm sitting on the side of the highway. There's no address. There's mile markers and stuff so. Now they send you to a page and you got to fill all this stuff out like while you're sitting on the side of the damn road. So I called my insurance company freaking out. I was like, listen, I got a kid sitting on the side of the damn highway, 75 miles an hour. Cars are passing him. He's just sitting there on the side of the highway. It's cold. Somebody needs to go help now. And we already had somebody on the way to go get him. But I didn't want him sitting out there on the side of the road for longer than he had to. And there was it's going to be a couple hours. And, didn't you go get him?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was sitting on the side of the highway still, but, we got that taken care of and he should have known, but he said, he didn't want to make a claim on the insurance and have the insurance go up. So he didn't understand how it worked.
Oh.
And so I taught him, and I said, hey, next time you're in dire straits like that, give that 1-800 number a call. That's what they're there for. And I really don't care if it costs me money as long as you're safe, So it is what it is. Now you live, you learn, and that's what those experiences are there for. Those experiences teach you those kind of things. And I didn't know those kind of things when we got together. I didn't have roadside assistance, but I knew what it was and I knew how to use it, but I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And there was really no reason for me to have it because I had a $500 piece of shit then too. So it wasn't like I absolutely needed roadside assistance, and I never really went anywhere that I couldn't walk home anyway. So, a lot of the things that I know are just from experience and just having to deal with that kind of stuff. And then it's kind of strange when people older than me come to me for advice, and I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm just doing this. I'm on the skin of my ass like you
Swinging
are,
it.
So It's one of those things that it's kind of perplexing. You know, me and my brother were talking about that earlier in the week. You know, like I've got family members that call me and ask me for, you know, advice or what do I do in this situation or pick my brain. And I'm like, why? You know, I went from being the black sheep of the family to being like a leader of the family. It's kind of freaking weird.
Maybe it's because like they know you're not just going to tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah,
or
that's
sugarcoat
that's
things.
kind
Like
of
you're
what
going to give them like a completely honest
that's kind of what
answer.
Joe said. He said, really, when people come to me, I'm like impartial. I'm like, he said, this is how he said, he's like, bro, you're like Switzerland. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're neutral, like Switzerland. And I said, man, I'm going to steal that. I'm like Switzerland. I'm neutral. But yeah, we had this discussion about how he thinks that people come to me because I'm neutral in the aspect of like what to do with family members and stuff. And when you get into situations with younger family members or stuff like that, the black sheep, the real black sheep of the family, when you get into situations with those family members, sometimes it may be a little difficult to handle those situations without ruffling feathers, without pissing people off. But there's also a point where you can't worry about that stuff. You just got to do your business.
Yeah.
You know, and one of those issues was dealing with a younger family member, and this family member was going through a rough patch in her life. And I had some of our family members calling and asking, well, what would you do in this situation? And it was really strange for me to deal with because they were older family members that I've always looked up to my whole life. And I'm like, why are they calling me? You know, I'm usually the last person everybody, you know, I used to be the last person anybody told about anything. Now I'm one of the first. And it is kind of, it makes me think of how my grandpa was the glue that held the family together, you know, old Pop. You know, now that grandpa's not alive anymore, we don't have the family Christmas get-togethers that everybody had to force me to go to. I used to talk a lot of shit about the family get-togethers, but now I miss them. You know, you ever miss the family get-togethers?
Sometimes.
You know?
I mean, there's certain occasions that, you know, I don't want to replay.
Well, you know, our was it our second episode of the podcast, Holiday Grievances?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about some of those things on that podcast, but, you know, things have even changed in the last couple months since we've been doing the podcast, that the way we look at some things. And that's kind of crazy too. And when you think about the kids moving out on their own, the thing that really worries me with Caleb, you know, he said he didn't want to have to come back. Well, I want him to understand that if you do have to come back, it's okay. You are welcome here. The last thing I want to do, or the last thing I want to see, is my kid living on the streets because he didn't want to come home. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't want to embarrass himself and ask Dad to come sleep on the couch, you know. I just hope he understands that he's always welcome here. And I struggle with, you know, how's he doing? Is he eating? You know, but I have to push that to the back of my mind because I've got other children here that need me, and I have other things I need to worry about. I just have to hope that I taught him enough that he can be out there and survive. Yeah. And I think so. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be fine. As the things that he's nervous and worried about, everybody gets nervous and worried about. Everybody gets nervous about paying bills. Everybody gets nervous about living on their own. But he's essentially been doing it all year anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's just now things have to click, and it's like, okay, I'm 20 years old and I do have to pay bills.
I think it did click. I think there was a switch somewhere, and I can trace it back to a conversation he had with one of your coworkers, and he was talking to a lot of his coworkers that you don't necessarily talk to every day, but he was talking to coworkers and people about moving out and how he's nervous, but he wants to get out there on his own, wants to get out from under dad's thumb. And I think that was primarily it. I think it was primarily getting out from underneath dad's thumb, because living here has its challenges when you're not me. Living here absolutely has its challenges when you are me, but this is my house, and this is my castle. This is my comfort zone, and I don't like new people being around. I don't like. So it was a struggle when Caleb brought his girlfriend around, because I don't like new people at the house. I don't like people here. I don't like people here all the time.
Well, and it wouldn't be so bad if our house wasn't so small, because like I can recall a certain instance when I walked in from work and I got like 3 people I don't know on my couch, and all we have is a couch and a love seat.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around the room and I'm like, Caleb, this is not a flop house.
Right. But it seemed like to him,
we can't do this.
It seemed like to him like he wasn't able to have friends at all over, and
and at that time he hadn't moved into the garage yet.
Yeah,
and so,
and that's one of the things that he bitched about, was having to, this is such a small place, a 2-bedroom, 1-level house. It's 1,000 square feet. It's a small house.
And let's be honest, Caleb has a lot of best friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well. When growing up, my best friends, my parents knew who all my friends were.
Right.
They had met them several times. And when Caleb's bringing all his best friends around and I don't even know who they are, the one kid, I swear that's not that kid that he said, because that kid looks completely different from this other kid.
But no, he didn't. It was the same kid, I promise.
I don't know. Maybe I was tired that day.
I'm usually the crazy one that doesn't remember people's faces or names. No. But I remember that kid.
No, the face, height, hair, everything. Anyways. And so that was my thing. I would have
You know who that kid reminds me of? Check you later.
Yeah. But that's not what the kid looked like before. Anyways, but I wouldn't have brought people into the house without asking my parents first, especially if I'm going to bring 3 people into the house.
So when I was younger, when I was Caleb's age, I wasn't allowed to bring anybody to the house because mom wasn't ever there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to have people over when mom wasn't there. And, but I had close friends that at that time when I was Caleb's age, though, I was around friends that I'd had for years, and that my mom knew everybody.
Well, and that's how mine was too. I had 3 friends that I was in a close group with that they could have came to my house at any time and it would have been normal.
Right.
But people that I'd never met.
And seeing those people at your door now, that'd be kind of weird.
Where we don't like just anybody and everybody showing up.
And there's a reason for that. I'm really old school with the, this is my sanctuary. Yeah. It really is. This is my safe place. I don't like people being here, especially when I'm not here, but when I come here or when I'm here, this is my zone, man. This is where I feel my safest, my comfortable, my most comfortable. I don't want anybody around making that difficult for me. I don't want to sit and listen to conversations I don't want to be part of, or you know what I mean?
For me, growing up, I just saw a lot of family members take advantage of other family members.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot too.
To have people come in and out of my house that I don't know, just really.
I didn't see a whole lot of that until we were older, though. You and I are kind of experiencing my family going through that at the same time. My family kind of has fallen apart. I want to get into that on the podcast as well. My sister wants to come on the show and talk about those kind of things and family traumas and what we grew up with. And I had a completely different I had a completely different childhood than the rest of my family members. There's 4 of us, and I had a completely different childhood than they had. And I mean, they talk about a lot of, sometimes there was some abuse, and I didn't have any of that, like my parents came at me with a heavy hand, but I needed it. I probably should have gotten way more ass beatings than I got, but hey, we're here now, and we're,
You have no ass, but
yeah, let's see, done spanked it all off. But when I was younger, I never really wanted to have a whole lot of people over at the house. I was wanting to go everywhere else and hang out at their places. And I didn't really want a whole bunch of people here. So I think that's one of the reasons why Caleb wanted to be out on his own, because he couldn't invite a bunch of people over here. If he did, it was only 1 or 2 at a time, And that was one reason. Another reason is because, where he was sleeping, I got some big speakers behind the wall here, always on and always beating the hell out of the wall. So that may be one of the reasons. He didn't have a private entrance. He had to come in and out through the front door, and
Rocket always wanted to hang out with me because Rocket just thinks he's
the bee's
super
knees.
Cool.
Yeah. But when you're living with mom and dad and you got those issues that you just want to be by yourself, you want to be on your own, you want to have your own crap going on, you want to, instead of walking into mom and dad's living room, you want to walk into your own living room. I get it. When I was that age too, but one of the things that I really stressed to him before he moved out is, hey, you have an opportunity to stay somewhere and save some money for free.
Yeah, it's like the things we wish we would have known then that
absolutely.
We know now.
The things that I would have done differently when I was younger was I would have stayed at home longer and I would have saved more money, because now I ain't got shit. And mom tried to tell me, she tried to tell me, hey, you got to save your money. Hey, you got to, I didn't. And look at where we are now.
Yeah.
Sitting in our garage talking to you guys. It is what it is. I do worry about that a lot. I don't know really how to feel about it. And, but we've been talking about that for, 40 minutes or whatever. You want to talk about how big of a week we had with the podcast?
Yeah.
So like I was saying earlier, we had a couple guests in here that recorded at the same time. One, Dan Rathman, and my brother came in and recorded. My brother came in and recorded on a Saturday, and Dan Rathman came in and recorded on a Sunday. And we had to edit all that stuff together, but we already had a show in the pipe, edited, ready to go. So we were like, hey, we'll just put this out. And then the next 3 shows were guests, and that they were already recording. So we haven't talked to each other on the podcast for a while. We talk to each other every day because we live with each other, obviously, but we haven't talked about the podcast. And I'm really super excited about the podcast. If you guys listen, this long, I appreciate you. We appreciate you. We've got a couple guests that we're working on. I've got to switch up some stuff with our studio because we're set up to do in person only in studio. And something I didn't want to do was remote. Yeah. And the reason why is because I like those face-to-face interactions, and you have a totally different interaction face-to-face than you do over the phone. And so I just wanted to do in studio. And I joined a couple groups on Facebook. I joined some dad groups. And surprisingly, it's gone pretty well. There's a couple bitchy people out there, but, for the most part, it's dads asking questions, and there's some questions that I know answers to. And I can be helpful in these groups, these dad groups, because I've got a lot of experience being a dad. I've got 21 years of experience being a dad. And I just, I reached out a couple times on a couple of these posts, and I got some feedback back, and a couple people interested in being on the show. And it was really weird because we had recorded a podcast with my brother, Made in America, and we were talking about infrastructure and, you know, how we need to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And we were talking about labor. And
learning trades.
And just being, you know, a regular guy in general. And a couple of people reached out, and I'm not going to spoil it by telling everybody what they do or, you know, what the conversation was, but we're going to make some plans to have these guys on the show, and we're going to do the damn thing. It's really exciting. Our audience has grown by quite a bit, and
it's almost double
what it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that to me is insanity. It's crazy that this is happening. It's really fun. I've had a blast the last couple of weeks just working. You know, I never think that I would say that I'm having a blast working. We're hustling. We're putting it out there, and it's been really fun. You know, since we recorded with Dan Rathman, we've been to a couple of his shows, and well, not since before.
Well, I want to see his show. Like, I want to see.
I do want to see his show. Yeah,
rather than him like hosting.
Yeah, well, he's really funny just in normal conversation. So I'd really absolutely love to see his act, and we're going to have a chance to do that. You know, here coming up, he's got a couple big shows going on, so that's going to be really exciting also. But I thought it was really strange that really kind of like it was like destiny or fate, you know, that when my brother was here recording that podcast, and then these two gentlemen reach out and they're, hey, you want to talk to so-and-so? We'll be on the podcast. And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to talk to you guys. You guys build America. Let's talk, you know, let's tell everybody, you know, I love this damn country. I've never really been any other country to say that this is the best country in the world, but I love it here. You know, I do a lot of learning and a lot of watching and a lot of, I'm very curious about geopolitics and foreign countries and what life is like outside of here. I just have no interest in going to a lot of the places that I research because they're dangerous. And, like Europe right now, there's a lot of places in Europe I can't wait to visit. You know, I like Poland. I really want to go to Poland. I want to go to Germany. You know, I want to go to the UK. I probably can spend a month in the UK because I know.
But are you going to be able to understand the people in the UK?
No, I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm gonna need my UK translator. Like, you remember that one time at Universal Studios, I was having a conversation with these people from the UK, and it started out great, but there was this one sentence where I was like, what the fuck is he saying?
Yeah, he asked.
And I was just looking at him like, I don't know what you're saying. And I looked at you and I was like, what is he saying? And you're like, vacation, you know, holiday.
He asked us if we were here on holiday.
And I was like, what the hell does that mean?
And you're just looking at me like, and I know you were trying not to be rude with him, and he's looking at you, you're looking at me, and I was like, vacation, like holiday, vacation. He's like, and oh yeah.
He's a big fellow like me, you know, and he was, the accent caught me off guard, but you know.
And they talk really fast.
Yeah. And at that time, I was a big fan of that UFO podcast, and I still am. I still watch those guys religiously. Every time they put out a show, I'm watching it. That UFO podcast, Andy is awesome, but he is from Scotland. So he's got a Scottish
Well,
accent.
that's like me. Like, I am just mesmerized by like Scottish and Irish accents. Like, I will just stop. Like, especially if I see somebody in person, I just stop and stare at them. It doesn't matter if they're male, female, a kid.
Right. And Andy looks Scottish too.
Yeah.
He's got that red hair. It's great. And so his co-host, when he has a co-host on, his name is Dan Zetterstrom. And he's Welsh. And so when they get together, you got one Scot and one Welsh person, and they're both talking like it's the same language. It's English, but they sound completely different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have difficulties understanding the Scottish accent, but as long as they're talking at a normal cadence, I can understand it just
Yeah,
fine.
because like I think Scottish is kind of thick.
Yeah. It's gotten to the point
It's
though where
relaxed.
I've watched a lot of some Russian state TV, and I watch a lot of coverage on the Russian-Ukraine war, and so there's been times where I've understood Russian without having to read the subtitles, and I'm like, now I'm getting too deep into it. So, and so those type of things absolutely happen. I really. I might piss some people off here, but I was talking about wanting to visit Europe, and the biggest country in the world is on the European continent, and that's Russia. And I'm afraid I'll never get to visit Russia. And Russia's one of those places, especially now, you don't want to go to if you're a Western person. You'll become a political prisoner. There's a high possibility of you becoming a political prisoner. I don't think I would have anything to worry about because I'm not famous. I'm not I'm terrified to go to Russia. I'm not scared of anything, really. I'm not scared of what the Russians would do to me. I'm not scared of dying. What I'm scared of is not coming home and having to live in a Russian prison. That's scary. That's terrifying. Living in the gulag, But one of those places I've always wanted to visit my whole life, Siberia. I've always wanted to go to Siberia. I know there's nothing there. I know it's a winter wasteland, but I've always wanted to go to Siberia. And I'm just terrified that I won't get to go. And another place that I'd really like to go that I'll probably never visit is China. And I don't mind Russian people or Chinese people. That's not what it's about. It's communist government. I freaking hate commies, and that's just the long and short of it. They're not our friends. Their government, the Chinese and Russian governments, they're not our friends. And I know that I'll probably never, ever, ever go to China. And that sucks, I think the closest Thailand, I might go to Thailand, but I'll never go to mainland China because I might not come home.
Yeah,
and that sucks.
I don't have a desire to go to either one of those countries.
Well, if you knew more
I'm
about
more
them,
wanting to go to my people's land.
If you knew more about, well, I mean, look,
The wetlands.
look, like, I think a lot of us can trace a lot of our family history to Russia. I don't think I'll be able to go visit Russia, China, and some other places around the world that I'd like to go visit, but I'll be able to sit right here and talk to these folks. If we get this remote thing set up, and I kind of have an idea on how to do it. When we go to record and stuff like that, we're going to obviously have the computer sitting in front of us, but we have some equipment, and I'm not 100% sure how we're going to work hanging out with people and talking with them remotely. I'm not sure how that's going to work quite yet. And I've explained to the guys that wanted to be on the show, I've explained to them, hey, it's going to take me a week or two to get this figured out so we can switch up the set a little bit because we got to get this table out of the way. And we got to set up our equipment to be able to do this. And I was thinking maybe we just flip the tables, to where we could sit behind the table and then pull the computer up to us and have the camera there. But we want to talk to we want to do with both of us. You know, I thought about, well, we could do it solo and I could just do it by myself. But what kind of fun is that, you know? I want to talk to everybody, you know? I want to
It's very strange sitting on the end of the table while you talk to other people.
Is it?
Just sitting there. Yeah.
Does it feel like a movie?
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like I'm a third wheel. Like,
Well, you don't have to. I would love to be able to get you a mic though. And because, you know, during our episode with Dan, you had a few things to say and nobody could hear you.
Yeah.
And that kind of sucked. And I think...
Or with our episode with Jessica where we had to pass me the
Right.
mic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the podcast producer. So, I mean, you don't do a lot of the podcast producer duties. I do them. But hey, you do the
you know
editing.
what? The editing takes a while.
It does take a while. And not only that, but it's still perplexing for me to look at. It's confusing. And I know how to do it, like, in theory. Like, in theory, I could sit down and do it myself. In theory. It would take me probably all freaking day to do 20 minutes. You know, so
You're
I'm
doing shortcuts on the keyboard, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I'm not. So I don't. I'm basically computer illiterate these days. You know, I haven't had. So I've had a smartphone for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And so when you give me a laptop, it was when it was new. It was like, what the hell do I do with this thing? I don't even know how to turn it on. And now it's just like, I don't ever use it. It's sitting down here below my feet. Not below my feet, but beside my feet.
Yeah.
But that big thing, when I got a PC, when I opened it up, I was like, what the hell is this? It's all different, new. I've had PCs. I've had a PC since 1992. So that was a long time ago. We were just watching a documentary on the Octopus Files last night and the Octopus Murders. And they had computers from the 80s. And I remember those computers. Like, I didn't have one, but my aunt and uncle had one. And we had, in 1992, we got our first PC, and it was cool. And it was, I don't remember it being Windows, but it probably was.
Well, I remember in like 1995, my mom and some family friends
I remember Windows 95.
Went to the base sales in Leavenworth, like when the soldiers move or whatever, and they have the big sale, and bought a computer that I played like Oregon Trail on. I thought I put that on vibrate.
Who was that? Was it work or an alarm?
I don't know. It was a number I didn't know. But anyways, you could play like, cause it was like MS-DOS or whatever. And you could play like Oregon Trail on it. It didn't hardly do anything. It had like Notepad. Yeah, it was like this big cream colored box thing that she got for like $50, which was a lot of money, I guess, in 95. I don't know. But yeah. And then we bought our first computer we actually bought was like a Gateway 2000. We actually went to the Gateway store in Kansas City and bought it.
Man, I remember when Gateways were the shit. Yeah. But they're still really expensive, like ridiculously expensive. Well, the PC that we have now costs $2,000. And it wasn't the most expensive one that I could get. It was just like middle of the road. And I still was like, holy crap, I don't have this money, you know? And so when I opened it up, it was a whole new system. You know, I've had two screens before, you know, for work, but that was a work computer. It was junk. Yeah. And when this one turned, I set it up, got it all plugged in and everything ready to go. I turn it on. 15 seconds later, it's ready to work. And I'm like, this is incredible, you know? And then I open up, I was like, how does this thing work? Like it was all foreign to me. It was it was all like wasn't in English almost, you know? And I open up how we have it set up now, it wasn't set up like that. I had to do all that. I had to make, it's a gaming computer is what it's for. It's purpose built for gaming, but my brother helped me pick it out because it had a lot of specs that we need for the show. We need memory, we need RAM, We need a lot of things that a big computer, big gaming computer has, and it's purpose built already. It's better than the fresh out of the box Dells or HPs or whatever. So we needed that big ass computer. We needed that for the business. And when we opened that up, it was like, holy crap, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I remember updating the Windows on the laptop, and it was like Windows 11. And I don't know what version we're in now, like 12.
I have no idea.
It's like Windows 10 or something, and now it's Windows 11, something like that. It's the newest version of Windows you can have, and it completely changed. They moved the start button, they moved the power button, and everything's different. And I'm like, but it's all still the same, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's all, same-ish. So I'm like, it's a huge learning curve, and when you set up this equipment and stuff for what we're doing now, it's kind of its own process. And on the days that we record, we got to hook up all the equipment, and the way we have everything set up is so it's the easiest setup possible.
It's quick,
And
efficient.
it is. And I want to run the show that way. And it may be low production quality or whatever, but it's not edit heavy. And this is who we really are.
Yeah.
So what you see is what you get. That's what I wanted to do. And I think the remote thing, I think it's going to be a learning curve, like
Yeah.
setting up a computer and everything. I think there's going to be a learning curve there, but I think it's going to be awesome because it doesn't limit us to local people.
Yeah.
And just talking, nothing wrong with local people, but I pretty much know all the industries that you can get into around here. I know them. So like I can perform a lot of the industries. I can perform a lot of tasks, a lot of jobs in the industries that we have around here. Like, of course, I can't be an aircraft mechanic. There's an airport 5 miles away. I can't do things like that. But I love aviation. I love airplanes and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's only natural to live around them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can't, of course, I can't be a doctor. I can't be a policeman, but those are things that
Probably
everybody
could be a
sees.
policeman.
I probably could be, but not legally. There's not a mining industry here, but if there was, I can mine. I could, it's not like there'd be a learning curve there, but when it comes to physical labor, I know how to do it. I know how to operate a shovel, there's a lot of industries around here that I have no clue on how to do, but I've seen them my whole life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk to people that build America. I want to talk to people that aren't just from here. I want to talk to manufacturing people, people on both sides, the labor side and the office side. I want to talk to business owners. I want to talk to teachers. I want to talk to people, man. Let's get this thing going. I'm really excited about it. And it's been a big couple weeks for the podcast, and it's been a roller coaster for me. It's not, that it's had its really high highs, my lows.
And we want to talk to people that operate roller coasters.
Hell yes. If you're a roller coaster operator and you're watching this right now, hey, give us a shout on Facebook. Our page on Facebook is what is it? At Coffee Bearded Bad Dad.
Coffee. I think it's Coffee with Bearded Bad
Is it?
Dad.
Okay. Coffee with Bearded Bad Dad on Facebook. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. I love roller coasters, man. But amusement park people, anybody who works at Disney or whatever, you don't have to say you work there. Just let's say, I work for the biggest theme park people in the world. We'll know who you're talking about. So we don't have to discuss who you work for, but what you do. If you want to just reach out to us, I think we're almost getting to the point where we might want to put our email on the YouTube channel. I'm just scared.
Yeah.
I know that I'm going to have to sort through emails, junk emails, but
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. I like opening up the business inbox and only having one or two emails to read. And I'm afraid that when we do put that email up on the YouTube that we're going to get spammed a lot. I'm afraid of it, but it's something that we'll have to work out.
Yeah.
But I'm stupid excited about the way things are going with the podcast, and I'm stupid excited about the future, and I wanted to talk about Caleb moving out. I'm really sad about it, but I'm also really happy about it at the same time. It's kind of a weird feeling. I'm going to bring this episode to a close. It's not been a great one, I think. It's not one of our best episodes.
I mean, I think it's just kind of an update of what's been going on.
Yeah, but I would
last
would love to do this every day.
Yeah.
But we don't have time to do it every day, No. It would be so nice. We have that gig job at night. It would be really nice if we didn't have to do that,
Yeah,
So we'd have more time to do this and talk to people. And like I said, I want to talk to the people that build America. And I'd like to see if your brother would come on. I love your brother and love to have conversations with
He'd probably be like, don't show my face. You're going to take my soul.
Oh,
I'd
no.
have to blur his face. I need to talk through a mute box or something.
That'd be hilarious, though, wouldn't it? I mean, I think it'd be funny. I thought maybe we could do that with Sully if he wanted to be on the show.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be. I'd like to talk to your brother. I've talked to my brother, and I thought that episode went really well, and I'm going to have him on in a couple months. I'm not really entirely too sure where the podcast is going to eventually end up, but I mean, where it's kind of headed and it's going in the right direction of where I wanted it to go anyway. And like I've told people before, this is kind of our catch-all show. We do have other projects that we're working on, and I think in the fall we're going to do a local show here that's going to be really cool. And I'm excited to get that going, but it's going to take a lot of work, and hopefully we'll be able to get it going in the fall. But we've got a lot of upcoming plans for the podcast, and I'd hate to say we don't have enough time to release 3 per week. I would love to do 3 per week, but I don't think we'll have enough time nowadays. But we're going to try to get that going as well, and, within a few months. I hope to eventually have this like an everyday thing. We're talking for an hour, but we're going to have to farm out the editing. So, but anywho, well, we'll bring this episode to a close. Ashley, it's been great hanging out with you.
Yeah, I get to, continue to hang out with you.
Oh, well, actually, no, you're going to be in here by yourself most of the day.
So
I get to go. I get to go to our gig and hang out there by myself for a while because we have no sitter anymore. But that's a challenge too. We could talk about what it's one of these days when we're back in here in the studio. We can talk about what a challenge it is to have your babysitting child, the child that babysits for you when he moves out. Because he Caleb babysat for us every night when we were going to our gig, and now we've got to go separate, and so we don't get to hang out with each other during that time. But it's okay. We'll make it. It's just it's not like we haven't done it before. So
right.
I do miss Caleb. I wish he'd come over a little bit more, but oh well. It is what it is. They got to fly the nest, right?
Right.
They got to get out and fly away.
Maybe we can have, meatloaf Fridays.
Oh, geez. You keep bringing me back into the podcast. I want you talking about meatloaf. One of those things that I had never seen before was a meatloaf pan. And there was the as seen on TV kind of crap. There was a perfect meatloaf pan that we got Caleb for Christmas one year as a joke. and he loved it.
So it's because Caleb, when he was little, he used to see As Seen on TV
Yeah.
commercials and everything. Like he would write it down.
Yeah, and
Like,
so
we need this, and he'd write the number down and everything.
yeah, and one of those things he was like, you can make a perfect meatloaf. And so we bought one as a joke to give to him, and he loved it.
Yeah,
And
we used
everybody
it
loved it. But
all
then the
the
paint
time.
started flaking off of it, and I was like, we better throw it away. But I didn't realize that it was just a knockoff of something that already existed.
Yeah.
It was an as seen on TV version of something that they already had.
Yeah.
And like your mom had had a meatloaf pan for years, and I didn't know what the hell they were. And when we got some pans from your mom, and
Yeah,
you're like,
because she never ever made meatloaf in that pan as when I was growing up. It was
It's like
always
a
made
cake
in
or
like
something.
She was always made it in a cake pan, and so like the meatloaf sat in the grease my whole
I
life.
hate that. And so when we got the perfect meatloaf, you literally made the perfect meatloaf. There was no grease. It wasn't sitting in a bucket of grease. You know, we used, of course, we used a leaner burger, and that perfect meatloaf pan. I swear, it was the perfect meatloaf. And now that we don't have one, I'm like, we've got to get a meatloaf pan. We haven't had meatloaf since because I don't like it sitting in that grease and just. Ugh.
But we have one now
Do we?
because Mom gave it to me.
Hell yeah, we're about to have some meatloaf, folks. Lindley, come on over. Meatloaf's his favorite.
Oh, he may not like my meatloaf.
Oh, everybody. How you not like your cooking?
I don't know.
There's only a couple things that you make that I don't like, and you don't like them either, so it's perfect.
Okay.
But anyway, we're going to close out the show. And actually, we'll be back on Friday. This is Monday today, and we'll be back on Friday to talk to you guys because we don't have any guests planned out. I mean, we do have guests planned out, but we don't have any coming on the show this week. So
Right.
we're gonna solo it, and this is your typical Monday show, I think. And I'm gonna work on something for Friday's show, and we'll do a better show on Friday. But this has been great, and I'm glad I got to have this time to hang out with you, and glad I got to drink my coffee. That's the most important part, the coffee. But we'll see you guys in a few days. Bye.
Bye.